or your
And welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, WIZE, and I'm excited. My next guest, first of all, I want to apologize for the late start. It was my fault. Complications with whatever, but it was my fault, and I really apologize for that. But as always, bring you another great, exciting guest. He's a entrepreneur. He helps CEOs and coaches. I mean, I'm excited to bring him on the show. I got plenty of questions to ask him. Welcome to the show, Brad Smith.
good to
There
be
we
here.
go. There we go. How are you today?
I'm well. We all have good days and bad days. Most of mine are really good. So
That's awesome. So what inspired you to transition from being a analytical chemist to a business coach for CEOs?
Well, okay. So here's the short story.
Okay.
My second, now ex-wife, but my second ex-wife brought me an article about a woman that had gone through Coach University in April of '96. And she said, Brad, you need to, this is the quote, Brad, you need to call these people, Coach University, you need to call these people. And because you're already doing this, you might as well get paid for what you're doing. So it's like automatic in me to help people get better.
Okay.
But I was doing analytical chemistry. So this will segue a little bit. I was doing analytical chemistry and formulation design for formulas, for over-the-counter pharmaceuticals. And I was doing it from the combination of analytical chemistry, analytical thinking, and intuition. I would start out, if you've got a really good cook, they start out with a flavor in mind, and then they build the recipe to that. Okay. Well, I would start out with a concept and build the formula to that and make sure it went through all the tests that the FDA required. So that's how I wound up in that.
So how does your scientific background influence your approach to business growth coaching?
My dad had a degree. This is the way I describe it. My dad had a bachelor's in chemical engineering and a PhD in biochemistry. And he trained me to think like an engineer, which means you've got a result you want to achieve and you figure out how to measure it. And then from there, you back up to, the Stephen Covey thing, start with the end in mind and work back from there. Well, you start out with that, you back up to it. And I watched him start 34 companies as I was growing up. And all 34 of those stories came through the house, and of those, 3 are still running 60 years later, but 30 of them died immediately. So, within a year or two. But so that was kind of in my blood. How do you make things work better? Yeah. And from the analytical part, you break it down and say, okay, I know this, I know this, I know this. I don't know this. Now, the intuition part comes in with, how when you're waking up or you're washing dishes or you're driving down the road and an idea pops into your head?
Yeah.
I trained myself, it took a little while, 6 months, but trained myself into mapping out all the things I knew, recognizing or articulating to myself the gap I didn't know, and then going and taking a 15-minute nap, and 90% of the time I'd wake up with the answer. Here's an example. I had a dry powder that I was working on, and I couldn't figure out how to get it to work together, how to actually turn it into a dry powder. And so I did that, took the nap, woke up with it, and the picture I had in my mind was me pouring the dry powder from one beaker into another. So I knew I could do it. And that was just a matter of chipping away at the edges of the unknown until I could figure that out. But the picture of it showed up in my mind as a dream, if you would,
Yeah.
or a vision.
Okay. Can you explain the philosophy behind everything is a theory until you experience it?
Until you can do something in a repeatable manner,
Yeah.
it's only a thought process, right? That's like dating.
Yeah.
No? And that's just an interview process, whether people like it or not, So getting yourself to the place where you understand what's actually true and it's repeatable, that's what I mean by that.
Okay.
Let's put it this way, if you believe your whatever, right? If you believe something and then you step out to prove it and you can do it at will by choice, then it's not a theory anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Excuse me. What are the most common barriers CEOs face when trying to achieve organizational growth?
Two things. One is self-awareness, because you can't grow a company or an organization beyond the limitations of the leader. You can't, right? If the leader can only see so far down the road, and the question I have around my potential clients when I'm talking to them is, what's your natural future time horizon? Where do you live to in your mind on a constant basis? Most people, 6 months, sometimes it's a day, right? But it's like for the really, really good managers, they've got a time horizon out about 5 years that they live the whole distance in all the time. That's one boundary, right? But if my self-awareness of myself, and everyone lives in their own bubble, if you would. I mean, look at everyone. Everyone has their own self-concept, and their limitations in how they feel and think and are aware are things that they haven't grown themselves through yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want people, one of my drives is to help people understand how profound a being they could be, they were designed to be. We're designed to be human physical beings, emotional beings, but in charge of the emotions, not a victim of our own emotions. Every time you have a negative reactive emotion, anger, blame, criticism, all of those are negative reactive emotions. And emotions are a tool for us to use, not be a victim of. Right? So there's that. And then there's the mind, which is a whole entertaining process. I've learned about meditation the deeper I study it, and I've been meditating for 29 years. What we're learning in meditation to do is to take our consciousness, so the awareness piece, right? And then add to that the intuitive mind, which is a concept engine. And then add to that the analytical mind, which is a word and numbers engine, if you would. And then add to that our emotions and then the physical body. So if we add all of those together in meditation, we become aware of our breath and we count our breaths. That's one method, right? Another transcendental meditation is repeating a mantra over and over. Some people use binaural beat, which trains the brain to certain wavelengths.
Okay.
And what I have found is what we're actually exercising is what I call the presence muscle. You lose attention, and all of a sudden you realize you're not paying attention. You bring yourself back to present. The muscle that brings us back to presence is the will we use to modify our consciousness between just awareness and engagement. To be fully present all the time is pretty much exhausting. But
Yeah.
after a while, it gets really easy and comfortable. But you have to make the choice of being in charge. If every one of us knew all the skills we could have, we'd all be at least millionaires. The fun part I have is I get to take my clients, those that are willing to do the work, and I only work with ones that are willing to do the work, to go from where they are to being what they think the upper limit of their potential is. When I get them there, then we shove it out another 50%.
What do you believe sets ambitious CEOs apart from others?
Some people, this is really weird, but I've just gone through this kind of analysis, if you would.
Yeah.
People that are interested in coaching, let's say you own a company, and the most you ever imagined yourself being is having $10 million available to you. And once you get there, you stop. Those people are no longer ambitious. Some people that want more, if they've still got more as an ambition in their life, they're ambitious. They want more, but sometimes they want it only for themselves. And when I ask them, why is it that you want to grow your business? And they say, oh, I want more money. And my answer is, that's not the truth. Money is just a tool. It's like your emotions. It's like your mind. Your mind is only a tool. Your emotions are only tools. Well, money is only a tool. But a lot of money allows you to do things that you can't do without it.
Okay.
Have I described it well enough yet? There's an itch in us, an inner drive, if you would. Some people have it and some people don't. If they don't, sometimes they gave up their self-authority, their drive, and their ability to choose their whole life really early in life. That's part of being adjusted to being an adult. But being an adult is being responsible, not being cowed or obligatory to someone else.
So you also teach a master class. Can you walk us through about what you teach in your master class? It's I know it's rooted in deep intuition.
Okay, so the deep intuition, it's a combination of two things. One is character development. Who are you, and what do you choose to be? Right. Most of us wind up in adulthood as a reaction to all the things they had before, not a choice. And so I put character on the table almost immediately as a set of choices they have to choose, not get to, excuse me, but they've already chosen it. How do they re-choose it? So character is one aspect. And then the other is a series of both meditation and exercises we do, energetic exercises that coordinate the brain. A good way to describe it is your brainwave thinks in 5 different brainwaves, actually 4 most of the time. Beta is analytical thinking. Alpha is daydreaming and when ideas pop into your head. Theta is the top part of a sleep cycle. And delta is the bottom 30 minutes of a sleep cycle. In other words, a 90-minute sleep cycle. It's got the most power, but it's also the slowest wave. And then below that's your individual subconscious. And our job is to learn how to tap into the individual subconscious, which is our pathway, if you would, into the collective unconscious. All the ideas that ever have been and ever would be. That's, if you would, omniscience. And it's not if it's possible, it's just what we have to do to get there. There's a big one. And so what I teach in the class is both a method for being conscious and a method for expanding how your brain actually is wired. So it rewires over about a year and a half process. Some people will be sooner, some people will take longer, but the intuition takes time to rebuild the brain so that it actually can receive it. Remember, I'd started a series of practices and was doing the analytical chemistry, and it had been about somewhere around 7 and 9 months. I was standing in my lab and I had a problem to deal with, and it shocked me. I realized I could hold 6 times as much information in my mind and correlate it at once than I could before I started the practices. That just kind of shocked me. Since then, I've realized I've developed the ability about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago, I had to rebuild a bathroom in a house that I owned with my ex-wife so that the floor in the bathroom was level. We had to rebuild a bathroom essentially. The floor was off by 2.5 inches from level in one direction and 5/8 of an inch off the other direction. And I was completely flabbergasted for how to figure out how to do that. I woke up in the morning, that state where you're just awake and everything's more available, and I realized I had a three-dimensional kinesthetic modeling ability. I could hold the room in my mind and kinesthetically feel how, oh, if I put a board on the middle of the doorway and run it straight, it'd be a straight board, mind you. This way I could get level and mark it that way. And then I could swing it over this way and get it level the other direction. And I got the floor level, both directions. But I found out that I had that kinesthetic modeling capability in my mind. And that was not something I'd had before. Well, maybe I did. I just didn't know it.
So doing the training kind of unlocked that portion of wherever that training was at, or
Right.
wherever.
Yeah. So what I do is I train people. Here's another one I have. I can watch someone on video and watch what part of their brain they're using to solve a problem. And so I can help them move their consciousness inside their brain to the right place to get the answer they're looking for. That's intense.
Yeah,
I want everybody to have that. Wouldn't that be cool?
It would, but I don't know if everyone is ready to have that.
Well, you have to have ethics first.
Okay.
Be honest first. Integrity is required for the core of this work. And integrity is what you believe, what you think, what you say, and what you do all line up. That's intense.
Okay. What advice would you give to a business owner who feels stuck in their growth journey?
Other than call me, I would say first map out. Okay, there's a new thing I've just stumbled across. Write down what your problem is. Physically write it out. Maybe put it on a spreadsheet, or Word document or whatever. But write it out. Then, so it's write it out. First, think about it. Then write it down. Then speak it out to somebody else. Those are the 3 steps. I just got that recently from someone. And so think about it, write it out, speak it out. Use different parts of the brain in order to be able to model the problem. Once you've got the problem, it's like, okay, I know this and this and this. This is what my customers want. How do I get to them? Model it out, and talk it out. And use other people's brains too. That's the whole reason we invented more than one human, so that we could have more than one idea at the same time,
Yeah. What's the importance of full commitment in achieving business success?
Um, it can't be a hobby. You've got to be completely engaged in it. Here's an example of not in business, but full commitment. I was 18. I developed fall term freshman year at Oregon State. I developed a bleeding ulcer. And when I got to the doctor, he said 3 sentences to me. It changed my life. Gee, Brad, if you'd have waited 6 weeks to come see me, you'd have bled to death. And he was accurate. Second one, you'll never eat corn, strawberries, or lettuce, which I love, ever again in your life. And he said, you have a psychosomatic disease. I knew what psychosomatic meant. Your emotions affect the severity of your symptoms. And in that moment, I made 100% commitment to conquer it. Because if I could affect it, I had created it. And if I had created it, I could uncreate it. Did it take time? Yeah. Did I know everything about it? Completely not. And so I set up the study of what am I doing? What am I not doing? And how is it affecting the outcome I have in my own body, right? Because I didn't like the idea of bleeding to death. No. So I changed my diet. He gave me some drugs. The drugs didn't work. The diet kind of did. It took me about 7 months, 8 months to get the bleeding stopped. It took me another 2 years to get the pain down, because it was a lot and all the time, down to intermittent. And then I studied myself for years and finally got back to a single memory when I was about 11 or 12 months old of what I thought was my first spanking. I had the lid off the diaper pail. I was playing around with the diapers because they had a cloudy part after them. And I thought that was just really cool. And I freaked my poor mom out, which makes a lot of sense. And she spanked me and put the lid back on and made me wash my hands, right? But that spanking took me from unconditional love to conditional love. And I was 47 when I finally figured it out, put all the pieces together, and went back in with hypnosis and reworked that memory from an adult perspective to, to an adult perspective instead of a 12-month perspective. And within a year, all my symptoms were gone. Okay. So commitment conquered it.
Okay. Well, can you explain how you combine mysticism and intuition with your coaching practice?
When I sit down with someone in person, on video, or even on the phone took a little longer, but I read their character. And by reading their character, not all of it, right, but the big parts of it, I can tell what part of them is interfering with their business growth. And I will ask them questions so that they can get to that insight themselves. And so my job is to take them to the epiphanies, and that's the fifth brainwave. We have what's called gamma, which is when the whole brain activates at the same time. And that's when we have an epiphany. And so my job is to guide them to the epiphanies they need so that they can be permanently different. Because once you have an epiphany, you're not the same. So my job is to listen to them deeply, both physically and intuitively, so that I can get them to the place they need to be so that they can be consistently, permanently successful. That's my job, and that's how I combine those two.
Okay.
I listen. I had a friend say, Brad, when you listen with your whole being. I thought that was cool.
How does studying human development inform your coaching strategies for leadership growth?
This will be harsh. We all go through a narcissistic stage from between 1 year and 2.5 years old. All of us do. A few of us don't outgrow it. Most of us do. But I listen for that when I talk to people. I listen for how self-centered are they? What are their character traits? And I listen for how deeply they're evolved. So I've studied the development of who we are. our brains, how we get that, how our brains develop, how our emotions develop, and how our ability to accomplish develops. And as we do, then we find out how to improve that. So my job, the epiphany part is, I would call myself an epiphany guy, but people wouldn't understand that at all. My job is to get them to the insight about themselves so that they know better. Like if I do that, there's a ditch. If I do that, there's a brick wall. I want people to learn. There's 3 ways of learning. You can learn from brick walls. I've done a few of them. Prefer not to. The colitis was definitely a brick wall. There's whispers. Those are the intuitions. And then at the end in between is normal life, the messages that come to us. What do you need to know that you don't know yet? We all have, there's a thing called the Johari window, which I like. There's the part you know about yourself that everybody else knows. That's the public part, right? There's the part I know that nobody else knows. That's the private part. There's the unknown part in that there's things that people know about me that I don't know. That's why I ask, I had one client, his receptionist had a certain idea. He had certain ideas. I needed to get him out of his ideas. She had, his receptionist had a pretty good idea of how he was doing. She had insights he didn't have. And my job was to get him to those insights, the epiphany trail, if you would. Then the 4th quarter is what nobody knows, what you don't know, and anybody outside you don't know. And that's the unknown. And that part right there is what I drive myself to understand deeper and deeper. So that's where the mysticism comes in. How do I get to the part of me I don't know that nobody else knows either? How do I make that square, if you would, smaller and smaller and smaller? Okay. And intuition is something I would recommend meditation is something I would recommend to everybody. Be aware of yourself. And eventually, when you get to the deeper end of it, it's just you sitting there being aware, modulating your presence.
Okay. What's the biggest misconception people might have about business growth and success?
That they're the only ones that have the answers. It's just that they're the ones that are responsible and they have to, right? But it doesn't mean they have to come up, Stephen Covey had, no, not Stephen Covey, the different levels of leadership. And I can't think of the author's name right now. Level 4, they think they have to have all the answers, right? Level 5, they use everybody. Lincoln was a level 5 leader, right? He had people with really different opinions on his cabinet. Yeah, he had to fire a few of them, but it's like if they acted out. But he had different opinions. That's what diversity is all about. Yeah. Get different ideas. Your job is just to pick and choose.
Okay. Thank you for being such a great guest. I apologize for the miscommunication. I hope to have you on earlier, but now we've come to the time where you get to plug away. You get the solo screen. Let everybody know where they can find you, your websites, everything. Okay.
My website is stellarinsightinc.com. stellarinsightinc.com. Go there. You can find a place to sign up for a half hour with me for free, or an hour if you want it. This month, and depending on when this comes out, so the month of December 2024, I'm offering a full month of coaching for free if you sign up, and your first session is inside December. We'll see when this comes out. But
it's out now. We're live.
Okay, we're live. And yes,
we're out there
December, live. We're in December. If it's there, then show up. Or my email is brad.smith@stellarinsightinc.com. Email me, we'll set up a time. So there you are. 2 ways to get me.
Thank you, Brad. Greatly appreciate you stopping through and sharing the information. And once again, I'm sorry for the miscommunication and the time confusion. But thank you for hanging in there and showing up. Thank you. I
Well,
appreciate it.
that's what life is. Life is the big adventure, right?
It is. It is.
Core of life,
Oh,
life is about learning, learn, learn, learn. If you do nothing else,
hmm,
set your commitment to learn and go.
absolutely. Definitely. Uh, it's just something that I'm even with the podcasting. I've I didn't have no experience podcasting. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't come from a media background or anything. It was just something I wanted to do, and I've learned how to edit podcasts, how to do audio, video, all these different skills that I've taught myself from YouTube University, and it's been amazing because now I'm I'm able to take these skills and apply it and help other people and profit from it from skills that I didn't have before.
Now look at you. Good. Appreciate it. I
Yeah.
like the title of your podcast.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was stuck in my mind for a while with even launching the podcast. Like for a year, I was sat around making up excuses to why I shouldn't make up the why I shouldn't do the podcast. Because originally I was going to do a podcast with a friend and it didn't work out. And when I finally got the courage to hit record and actually upload it, I was like, this is it. Stuck in my mind. I've been stuck in my mind for so long with releasing it and finally I just said screw it and just recorded it and it's grown. It's grown from me ranting and talking about being furloughed from work to actually having some great conversations. So I love the fact that I get to learn and speak to so many different people.
Good. How can I get a copy of the video so that
Oh,
I can share
I'll
it?
send it to you. I'll
Okay.
send you the copy of the video. I actually will send you a copy of the clips of from the video. You can
Okay.
do whatever you want with them. I'll email you the link to the YouTube channel so you can check it out and then share it as well.
Perfect. I will.
All right, thank you, Brad. Thank you for being such a great guest. I greatly appreciate it. And again, my apologies for the mix up in time, but thank you.
Not a problem. At least it wasn't 2 a.m. I would not have said yes to
Oh
that.
no, no. I don't know why it would even say that. I'm Eastern Standard Time, so yeah.
There we go. Good. Well, journey on. Have fun.
Thank you, Brad. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye. All right, another great show is in the books. Thank you to everybody who stopped by, who checked it out on live. If you check out the replay, please subscribe, share. Greatly appreciate everybody. Big shout out to my Real Wise fan, Bobby J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Shout out to the boss lady. Love you and appreciate you. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know your boy Wise does it. Peace out.